G'day guys, Justin here, back with you again with another NBA Player of the Day video. Apologies for last night, I was a little under the weather. Can't help that. It was a Friday night and I had to make the most of it. As you all know, my Player of the Day yesterday was DeAndre Jordan. The day before, Hassan Whiteside, and for opening night, LeBron James. Again, the continued pattern of big men having dominant games for me has continued. A bit of a toss-up. There are a lot of them today. We had the Greek Freak who put on another tremendous showing. DeMarcus Cousins had a great game. I mean, even for the smaller guys, we had Lonzo Ball putting a near triple-double and certainly putting a stamp on his debut, that's for sure. D'Angelo Russell had another good game. But for me, my player of the day had to be Anthony Davis in what was a losing effort to the Golden State Warriors. 35 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Shot over 70% from the field, 71.4% from the field, 75% from deep. Really irritates me as a big man that they're the sort of shooting numbers that he's posting there, but we can get to that a little later on. And 40% from the stripe. Again, he's a big man. I don't expect him to shoot great, but I'd like him to shoot a bit better than dilapidated Wilt, Shaq combined, that's for sure. He only had one foul, which meant he had quite a clean game defensively. Unfortunately, the 4 turnovers, so nullifies his ability passing-wise there. But nonetheless, an overall game, if you want to take, say, turnovers into account there on his passing, he still had 35 and 17 on what was 71.4% shooting. So he did have quite a dominant game. I found the tandem of him and DeMarcus Cousins is up in the past few weeks, particularly in the preseason. End of last season was a bit turbulent, particularly considering Cousins was traded All-Star weekend and everyone visibly saw his reaction to that. But I think the tandem's working really well. Having Drew Holiday there as a point guard is certainly going to help them out. There's still plenty on offer for them, and I'm pretty sure Rajon Rondo is still to come into this side as well. So you can only speculate about how decent they will be once he comes in, and you have the idea that DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis are both going to be rolling with Rajon Rondo. That will be exciting to see. Not that Drew Holiday's a scrub, mind you. Holiday's a very quality point guard, but nonetheless, I think Rondo can improve them a little bit more. Anyway, we'll get into the breakdown here of Davis. And a shout out to Anthony Davis. I think he proved once again why Draymond Green really isn't the best player in the league defensively. He was guarding, obviously, Green and DeMarcus Cousins for points during this game, but Davis was being guarded by Green, and Cousins was also being guarded by Green. But he showed no real signs of being able to slow these guys down. Both of them had dominant nights. I mean, you both have 35 points each. You'd have to suggest that if you're, quote, the preeminent defender and the reigning, defending, undisputed defensive player of the year, bullshit, you'd think that someone like Draymond Green's able to take care of players like this with relative ease and maybe without, posting 35 and 17. You'd rather see them posting, say, 20 and 10 and holding them, I mean, even less than that, maybe even a 15-point game and a 7-rebound game. That's just how it works. Nonetheless, we'll go into breaking up the stats and you'll see what I mean. Now, the thing that gives Davis a lot of versatility is his ability to shoot the jumper and play off the dribble really well. He has a lot of explosiveness. That was written off a lot in his first year because a guy like Damian Lillard played well to steal Rookie of the Year from him, and a lot of people were suggesting bust, particularly with the injuries Davis was suffering and does continue to suffer. We all know the problems that he's had. But this was a game where he showed why he's Anthony Davis and why he has the potential to not only be a top 50 player of all time, but I believe he could go even, top 40 player of all time. He just has that real potential. He just needs to start showing it a bit more and avoid injuries and start winning games. It's just how it works. So you had the layup for 2 off the dribble, as I mentioned. He had Pachulia guarding him, and Pachulia was sort of nowhere near. I had no idea what he was going to do. You only have to look at the defensive stance and the way he played his defense in this particular passage of play. He was looking for Draymond Green because he knew that Davis was going to get past him. He needed that backup and that cover. Unfortunately, Draymond provided about as much reinforcement as a straw house in the middle. Just did nothing. Just blew to pieces, and Davis had no problem getting the hoop there. Draymond with a bit of a slap, similar to James Harden when the ball goes past and he makes a slap or a defensive act to it. There was nothing to it. As we continue on there, we had the offensive rebound for 2. off of DeMarcus Cousins' missed shot. Again, another guy who's a bit more versatile. But I will say again, I do prefer these big guys get to the hoop and score. No one in this league is able to stop them. A, because of the rules, and B, because there aren't any great interior defenders left anymore. There are shot blockers, but they're not interior defensive players. So again, the offensive rebound for 2 off of DeMarcus Cousins missed. Now there was a late shot contest by Durant. No effect whatsoever. Again, we've only got to look at how much a late contest really means by the time you've had space to get the ball up. Now we had a fast break dunk following Cousins, a Cousins pass. Again, he was wide open, and that athletic ability of someone like a Davis who can get out, even in a half-court spread, you've only got to give them a couple of meters and they're gone, similar to a LeBron. LeBron needs that head of steam. You get LeBron on the head of steam, don't worry about it. The thing I do give Anthony Davis, though, however, is this ability to go from standing position or a triple threat position and not need that run-up. You can create that burst of energy just like that. So, again, he had the fast break dunk from Cousins. And then following that, he had a layup straight down the lane because someone like a Draymond Green simply sagged off, believed the ball. When you're watching it, the ball was camera left on the left-hand side of the court as you watched it on the television. The ball was on the far side towards the bench. And Draymond Green simply sagged off Anthony Davis, basically for a 1-2 punch. Davis passed him the ball out, and rather than Draymond sort of fill the lane and create space, he urged towards a contest. And Davis just took full advantage of it. It was always going to happen. As we continue back through, there was an offensive putback and obviously an offensive rebound from Davis, and a putback and layup for 2 over David West and Klay Thompson. It was quite a well-contested rebound, something you don't see a lot of with big men today. Is they bang down low to grab the boards, grab block, make defensive plays such as blocks, grab offensive and defensive rebounds, or at least interrupt a layup to the point where it misses the shot. Someone like a David West, who's similarly in that old school mentality of big men down low. He doesn't go out as far as he used to. It does help that he's old, but he's a big guy who can stand there and bang with the bigger guys and create that physical contest, which is something that he really brought to Anthony Davis in this particular matter. Davis had to fight out in the box out, got the rebound and scored over him and Klay. Klay was a bit of a late contest, but he was more in the play than Durant in that previous possession I'd mentioned. He then proceeded to go into the low post and score on Draymond. This was similar to how I mentioned LeBron the other day with Jaylen Brown, where he had that triple threat position on the outside, and he simply dribbled in. He backed him up. Simple fake and a pivot, and there was a score there for Davis over Draymond. Really not looking like Draymond's going to be a defensive force this year. I know it's only a couple of games into the season, but when you let a guy who's closer to 7 foot than he isn't, just handily dribble the ball, force you down into the low post, and then you get faked out even with possible 2-to-1 coverage and still let him score, you're not doing that great defensively. And I think a lot of people will continue to pick up on that during the season as we continue on. Following that, further down the floor, this is in the second half of the game, I do believe, we had an inset pass intended for JaVale McGee from Draymond Green. An alley-oop pass gone wrong, and Davis picked that off pretty quickly. One could have suggested he was going for a skyhook, but there was clear evidence he was trying to pass that. So still, then coming back down the floor a little while later, we had a post-up miss on Green. He was probably about, say, 7 to 12 feet away from the basket on this shot, and he's taken it. Now, he's faded away off Green. The second the ball's hit the rim, he's come back in. A bit of a long bounce off the iron, I will give him that. But a 3-on-1 offensive rebound over Durant, Green, Gee, all north of 6'9", or at least 6'8" in Draymond's case. And he's clearly just out-rebounded all 3 of them, followed by a very, not a rough foul, but they've tried to rough him up and foul him a little bit. A bit of physical contact, you'd say. And there was no problem for Davis. Davis just put the N1 chance straight in the hoop. That's how it happens because he's Anthony Davis. We know what he's like on opening night, particularly for a New Orleans standpoint. And just how dominant he can be. I mean, that's why he's only a young guy and he's explosive and he's powerful and he's big, and that's why he gets away in a situation. Again, 3-on-1 over Draymond Green, JaVale McGee, and Kevin Durant. It's not like he was trying to box out Shane Larkin, Spud Webb, and Muggsy Bogues, who was certainly having to fight for that ball. And he did, and he won, and he scored, and that's just how it happens. Quite aggressive and pumped up after that. We had one of his couple of 3-point shots then come in from there. It was simple. He was open. Durant made a late contest, but he was pretty much open for the shot. He nailed that. A few pick and roll plays here. This is something I think they could really use well here. New Orleans, particularly with the likes of, obviously with Cousins and Davis, and play, even if it's a high-low or a basic, pick and roll on both, they can both handle the ball for big men. I mean, particularly Davis. But if you have Davis as the guy dribbling the ball, and you pick man, or the guy who's rolls the basket to DeMarcus Cousins, and vice versa, it's going to be an unstoppable move. And if you want to play a high-low on a zigzag motion there, you just get someone like a Drew Holiday to feed them the ball at the top and down low straight up. I mean, what are they going to do? If you give the ball to Anthony Davis on the 45 at the elbow there, all of a sudden you see DeMarcus Cousins down low. Are you going to try and stick with Davis, knowing that he can very well make the shot from there? Are you going to give him space to try and dribble so you can stop him on the penetration? Or are you going to sag off on him, knowing that DeMarcus Cousins there, so he's got an open lane? It's probably will be one of the most unstoppable players there for New Orleans during the season. And I think that's something that many teams in the league will have to keep an eye on if they start doing it, because it's going to be almost impossible to stop with two of arguably the five best big men in the league on one team. But anyway, we had the pick and roll. He sets the pick on Curry and rolls off and rolled in easy for a layup on a sagging Draymond Green. Again, Draymond played no quality defense on Davis in anything I've seen during this game. Not to mention, he showed no respect to him. I mean, how can you not show respect to a guy who's capable of doing this any given night? Again, he showed him why. Again, we had the exact same thing a few plays later. It was a pick and roll man. The roll man, after the pick on Curry, he grabbed the offensive rebound, which is something I couldn't believe. The offensive rebound off the shot. I can't remember who was dribbling the ball and missed the layup. It was a jump shot. I think they missed a jump shot. And Davis, again, just with the rebound over Draymond Green. Draymond hit the floor, had a bit of a talk, and Anthony Davis just slammed the ball straight through the hoop, really give it to him. Again, as I mentioned, Draymond Green is not as quality of a defender as people give him credit for. He's a good defender, but he's not the defensive player of the year, and I think this is something that we need to wake up on and look at. In a game like this, where you have two of the five best big men in the league, two perennial offensive threats, and you've got the perennial, quote, defensive team and defensive player of the year in Draymond Green, and he does nothing in a game like this, then why should we really have any consideration for him? That's just me. Durant played better defense in this game, in my opinion, but again, there's no one's going to come out and say that. And once again, you've only got to look at the way the media reports on games like this. It'll simply be, oh, well, Draymond had an off night. Oh, Golden State got the win. There won't be any focus on that. It'll be, oh, wow, Davis and Cousins scored 35 each, but they didn't win. Golden State got the win. It won't be, man, Draymond had a terrible night. Had he been any worse, there's a chance they lose this damn ball game. My goodness. I mean, you've only got to look at Kevin Durant. Like, lucky Durant was there, in my opinion. Durant wasn't there. They're not winning this game. It's that simple. It was only an 8-point margin. It doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, it seems like a lot in a basketball sense, but 8 points on a side like that, looking a bit shaky, the Warriors. That's just me. I mean, they've a good chance of going straight to the finals and probably win the chip. They're just shaky to start with, in my opinion. Again, we had the Davis stole another Draymond lob. Again, he went to pass off to a guy in the paint. I don't know why you're going to try and throw a lob pass over Anthony Davis when he's standing 3 to 5 feet away from you. He's always going to get that ball. And he managed to, after grabbing this ball, he ran the floor and then hit a nice floater over Bell, who'd forced him wide. He was on camera right as you look at it on television, and he was on the far side. And he managed to have to fade a little bit on this floater, but nonetheless made the basket. A good attacking presence there by Bell, but it just wasn't going to do anything. Now, penetrant, there was another, one of the final plays of the game for Anthony Davis. He simply came down with a penetration dribble on Draymond Green. Again, Draymond Green, a terrible defensive effort on Anthony Davis, but in general, again, another highlighted play. You've only got to back him down, because the second you get into a position to score, they can't touch you, which is exactly what he did here. He had a penetration dribble, went to pull up, realised that the help defence had closed in on the rim, so he simply kicked it out to Holiday, who was on the baseline for an open jump shot. And then finally, there was the alley-oop slam from Cousins, another example of Cousins in the high post or in the high option, knowing that he can handle the ball. And the defense has just simply gone up. I believe it's Sean Livingston, rather than stay back on Davis, he's gone to plug the hole. Wasn't a bad idea, but considering there was already a 2-on-1, pretty safe from the defenders, or at least confident by teammates. And nonetheless, Davis was open, had an absolute paddock to work with. and straight up alley-oop and a dunk for Anthony Davis, and that pretty much sealed the game for him there. As I mentioned, 35 points, 17 rebounds. There's really not much more that he could have done. Again, I do want to touch on the fact, though, a player like a Draymond Green who played in this team, who can dominate this game defensively, apparently, did absolutely nothing. I mean, we go to look at his numbers here, and he has the one steal. Obviously, the box score doesn't tell you everything. But just to look at the actual effect he had on a guy like Anthony Davis, and even a DeMarcus Cousins and some of the other bigs that were playing in this game, there wasn't anything he could do or wanted to do, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, I mean, what can you do? Draymond, really, you're going to have to lift your game a little bit here. Kawhi's out, so I mean, it's a bit hard to see who's Defensive Player of the Year at the moment. I mean, with the way he's been rim protecting, it's going to be Kevin Durant, for fuck's sake. And I'm sure the NBA world would love that. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. I mean, as I mentioned, Durant with 7 block shots today was by far the best defensive player in that game. And for me, overall, had he not had that rim protection, particularly, as I mentioned, with DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis getting to the hoop at will, the Golden State Warriors don't win this basketball game. I feel the entire all the credit should go defensively to Kevin Durant in that win. And he had a fairly well-rounded game, as I mentioned, but with 5 turnovers, it also cost him, which was hard considering that the team itself had just around 15. So he had a third of every turnover for that side, which was kind of hard. But when you have 7 or 8 block shots, you're doing pretty well. And again, that's why I mentioned that's the reason that the Warriors actually won this game. Through no fault of Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, DeMarcus had a bit of an off night, but I mean, what else can you do? You pour in 35 and near 15, 14 rebounds for DeMarcus, 17 rebounds for Davis. So when you look at it, they're 35, 15, and 5 each. They're 47.8% for DeMarcus. It's not too bad. Over 70% for Anthony Davis. To me, personally, I feel it was just that rim protection from Durant that made all the difference. And certainly no difference or effect made by Draymond Green. That's just my assessment. That's how I'll continue to see it. Again, I just want to see a bit of improvement. You got this guy right here. And what did he do? Constantly, 24/7, 365 days, every time he was on that court. Defense, defense, defense. That's why he's the greatest defender of all time. This guy here. Constant hustle, constant defense. That's why he's the logo, and that's why he's arguably the greatest player of all time. He's by far and away the greatest defender of all time. But what he did for defense was the same thing that Will did for offense. So just keep that in mind. That is the end of my player of the day for what was October 20th, 2017. Anthony Davis, the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, I will reiterate, Davis had 35 points, 17 rebounds, and I do believe 5 of those were offensive. I'll just double check that. As we go through, 5 offensive rebounds. So even without the offensive rebounds, he still had 12 boards. He had quite a good game. As I mentioned, 35 points, 17 rebounds, 5 of those offensive, 5 assists, 2 steals and a block, 71% shooting from the field, 75% from deep. Something that really irks me. I don't get why a big guy goes out and shoots a long shot when he was getting to the paint as easy as it was. It's just me. 40% from the stripe, not too good at all there. Only had the 1 foul before turnovers, and for his with that sort of production. Overall score of .206, which gives him the second best score of the season so far for me, for my players of the day, behind Whiteside. LeBron at third with 202. DeAndre Jordan with 170. Again, I can't stress enough, the impact that him and DeMarcus Cousins had was simply overshadowed by the fact the rim protection by Kevin Durant is what won this basketball game for the Golden State Warriors. Make no mistake about it. So, again, player of the day, Anthony Davis. Previous players of the day, DeAndre Jordan, Hassan Whiteside, LeBron James. You can find me on Twitter, Justin_G_Bryan. Shout out to the Blitz team. Shout out to every one of my subs. And I'll be back with you tomorrow for my player of the day for the 21st of October. Here on day number 5 of the NBA season. It will be interesting to see how many different people can win this player of the day award. Who will be my player of the week? We'll have to find out, and vice versa, player of the month. MVP candidates' defensive efforts so far. I might even do an example of where, I mean, even if you guys suggest, have a look in the comment section and just suggest to me who you feel is a player you want me to do an assessment of, and what their overall score has been this season or for a particular game. I can always let you know about that one. It's not too hard. Again, thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave a comment, any feedback you've got, the way I grade it, what your player of the day was, what you expect a bit more, a bit less of this season. Hit me up on Twitter, Justin_G_Bryan. Again, thank you very much for watching the video. And yeah, I'll catch you guys tomorrow for what will be the 21st of October 2010 NBA Player of the Day.